I've been waiting like a decade to have a conversation with you. I'm not even lying.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is fate, isn't it?
It is fate. We are here. You're coming to Australia, which I'm very happy about.
Yes, me too.
What is your memory and your love of Australia in your mind? Why do you like her?
I mean, I was just there actually in March. I was in Sydney on a little like vacay. But I just love the people. I think, I feel this like guilt because I haven't toured over there since 2018. So that's on me. We're changing that. And we're gonna make up for lost time on this tour in
It's on you,
January.
but it's also on global pandemic, you know?
That, that was a bit of a caveat, but I'm going to take responsibility and say it's been far too long. But I'm also a little bit relieved that we're doing this towards the end of the tour because I can work out all the kinks in the show while I'm in the States. And then the Australian and New Zealand fans will be getting the perfect set.
I kind of like a show with kinks, though. I like to be part of the guinea pig phase, the
Yeah.
experimental phase.
I
Um,
mean, you'll always have some sort of like mess up in the show if it's a show of mine. I always, we keep it fresh. But yeah, there's lyrics missing and you just try not to fall. But yeah, that's the point. It's live music.
That is the beauty of live music, isn't it? I've been getting back into going to shows on my own again, not all the time, but I went and saw Miles Smith play on Friday just on my own, back at the crowd. And it was a really, I don't know, it was like a transformative kind of experience for me doing that again. Because I've been going to gigs with lots of people and like sort of talking during the songs and shit, but
Mm.
zoning back in on live music was a really special thing for me to do. Who are the people that come to a Maren Morris show? What do you look out and see in their eyes?
I mean, I have a really diverse crowd, so I think that's something that have built over the now four records. But yeah, I mean, like every walk of life will be represented. I think the biggest compliment from my fans to me is that they feel really safe at my show. So like if you're queer, just you can go to a show of mine. And I think particularly, coming from this like world of the South and like country music in America here, hearing that from like the queer community is really important to me to create an environment that they feel safe at. And but really for everyone, I just want them to come for a few hours, escape, connect. I love that you go to shows by yourself. Like that's such a cool way of absorbing an experience because you're right. Like this is when I love like seeing movies by myself because I don't want people like interrupting my experience.
Yep.
But like obviously shows are a little bit different because it's more interactive with the crowd and communal. But yeah, I think that's and I've put so much music out since the last time I was touring over here. So we have a lot to make up for in the set list as well. So you know, we'll play the hits, but then obviously like weaving in Dreamsicle will be key. And but no, it's gonna be so fun. I can't wait.
I am so excited to see how this album comes to life live because there is there's such a humanness to this record, but there's also this kind of escapism to it
Mhm.
at the same time. And I really like how you marry those two worlds together. This feels like it was a really transformative kind of moment for you making this record. You know, how are you feeling now? It's been out for a bit and you've had time to see the fans, reaction to it and experience with it because it feels like it was special to make.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy record to make. I went through, a divorce and I share a 5-year-old little boy with my ex, and we're doing a great job of like co-parenting and, we're both songwriters. So I think just the only way I know how to process something huge like that is to go into the studio. And that's why some of the songs on this album, even though I love them, otherwise they wouldn't be on this project, they were really hard to write. But I just try to keep it as honest as possible, but then allow myself the healing time to not rush into putting a record out right after all of that happened. I wanted to allow myself to grieve and go out with my friends and be a bit of a mess and go through that part of the healing period and document all of it through these songs. So by the end of it, I was like laughing again and writing songs like Bed No Breakfast and Too Good and just being able to like finally find humor in this. And so I think that I'm just so proud. So now that it's out, I mean, obviously seeing people's like favorites come out and like their rankings of like what's their favorite. I mean, that's like very cool to see, but I'm just so proud of myself that I didn't hold back and I allowed myself to heal my heart through this. And now y'all get to hear it and hopefully heal through it as well. And then we'll all heal together at the show.
Well, that's what I feel like when you're going to perform these songs night after night on a global tour, you have to almost actually process all these emotions before you put them out there into the world. Because there's different conversations I'll have with artists, and some prefer to write whilst they're in the moment and as that form of catharsis. But for others, I really respect the humanness of taking the time and then writing from the perspective of a fair bit of the processing being done. Have you always felt like you've written that way when you've kind of waited and processed things as Maren the human before Maren the artist kind of makes these songs?
Well, this is the first record I think I was the most prolific. I mean, I think I wrote 95 songs for this album, and that's a lot to sift through and whittle down to the 13, 14 that are left. But no, I think I, my first couple of records were creatively as a songwriter, I would write and then go on tour. And I wouldn't be writing on tour. I would just be on stage performing every night, not able to like I would write ideas down that I had for when I would go back into writing mode, but I actually hate that process. I want to be able to write a song whenever I feel like it, not waiting until the tour is over. So this is the first album that I was writing during tour last year. I was any moment I had, I would get a session and be like, I need to write today. So I was really allowing that faucet to stay on of, creativity. And I think that's why there's such a flow of emotion on this, is because, yes, some of it I'm processing in real time as I write the song. I think that's why some of them are like, whoa, this is how a woman leaves. That's a bit like almost too raw sometimes for me to to hear, because it's like, dang, she was going through it. But I think that's why I kept it on there, was because like people, I wanted to give myself that healing gift of, this is not a pretty look at grief or divorce or a breakup or whatever. This is like, you need to sort of show those wounds. And so yeah, but no, this is the first album I've ever made where I was writing this much for it because I was in this headspace still.
Wow. I wonder then, because the people that you worked on this record with is a really special list of collaborators, and pretty much all of them, I can see why you've kind of paired yourself with them. But when you're writing from such a place of pain and such a place of, you know, honesty, how do you how do you grapple with bringing other people into that process? Because for most, it would be a very deeply personal thing that they only want to keep to themselves and get it out themselves. How do you navigate bringing other people into the process?
Well, I think I've learned after being a songwriter, especially in Nashville for this long, and when I moved to Nashville 12 years ago from Texas, I wanted to just be a songwriter. I didn't want to be an artist. I wanted to write songs for other artists. So I had to learn pretty quickly in Nashville, on Music Row, the way that people write songs in this town is, you collaborate with strangers every day. And so it's almost like a blind date. But that's how I met a lot of my friends that I still have a decade later, is through those weird co-writes where it's like, hi, nice to meet you. Let me bare my entire soul and traumatize you. Let's trauma dump for the next few hours and get a song out of it. So I think my borders of being vulnerable with someone I don't know that well are already thin, because that's just how I've made a living as a songwriter in Nashville. But now that it's like my own story and I'm the artist, of course, the people I'm writing with on this record, some are new faces. Like I'd not worked with Joel Little before, and he's a New Zealand boy, so he's gonna have to come see me when I go out there. But Tobias Jesso Jr., who I was such a fan of through like the Dua Lipa music. Yeah, there were some new friends, but I just had to kind of be honest and be like, hi, like you don't know me that well, but I'm going through a really crazy thing right now, and I have to be able to write it, and I trust you. There has to be a bond of trust, like the second you work in the room with them, and you just like, yeah, you're gonna overshare, and they're hearing your perspective. So like their job is just to help navigate the ship with you. But yeah, I don't feel like I would ever be in a room where I would have to walk on eggshells. I have to be able to say what I need to say. And then we end the session and we leave. And I would be so pissed at myself if I didn't take those hours that were so valuable and be like, I have to let it all out now.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold back.
You're not here to waste time. Like you're not here to waste an 8 hour session writing about something you don't actually care about. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that before, don't get me wrong, but I think, yeah, I was like, I'm not wasting my time with someone like Joel or, Julia Michaels. I was like, I'm here and they're here to meet me where I'm at and just make the best song come out of it. And I feel like we just held each other through this whole process. And it's just one of the greatest, I think, writing experiences I've ever had as a human being that's done this for, more than half her life. I really am proud of myself and my co-writers that yeah, we didn't mince words. We didn't hold back. We let all of our weird out, and this is the result.
It is. There are some moments that feel like beautifully trippy in this as well, and kind of like the weirdness that you speak about comes across as like this kind of beautiful field trip in a way. And I think that's what I mean when I said initially, like I find the album quite beautiful and it would have been really special to write. And then you talked about the pain that went into making this as well. I feel like what you and your collaborators made with the subject matter is the beauty of this and the kind of diamond that you were able to find at the end of the road. And I'm really glad you were able to find that because that's the way that I listen to it as a fan, is that you've managed to kind of turn this painful chapter of your life into something really beautiful and shining. So well
Oh my
done.
God, thank you so much. That is such a sweet like compliment, and you're gonna make me cry.
Oh, dude, I mean it. I think you are such a special human being and a special artist, and I'm so grateful you're coming back to Australia, fucking finally. And
No, it's honestly embarrassing. It's been this long. I mean, I was just there and I feel like I made a lot of new friends. So like my friends that I made when I was just there in March, they're all like, in my comments after they announced today, and they're like, ah, I can't wait to see you. We're gonna get martinis after the show. I can't
who,
wait.
what did you do when you were here?
I just like hung out. I wanted to go get a tattoo with this Australian tattoo artist, Lauren Windsor. So I had like a couple things planned. I was gonna go meet my new agent over there. So I had a few things in mind, but I also just wanted to give myself, for the first time in my life, a schedule that is free. And but no, I knew one person when I was going there, but then he introduced me to all of these like amazing new friends and just like incredible dinners, like some of the best food I've ever had. It was like in Sydney. And then yeah, I kind of it was my calm before the storm vacation because I was like, I'm about to have a really busy year and I want to go somewhere that I've never gotten to spend a lot of time as a just person, not just a touring artist. And yeah, it's just kind of like open myself up to the experience. So it was really wonderful. And yeah, I was like asking those friends, I was like, where should I play when I eventually tour here? And so they had like a lot of great suggestions.
You've nailed the venue choice. The Enmore in Sydney is one of the most
Yes.
beautiful venues in the world. Um, I'm really, really excited for you, and thank you so much for the conversation today. I really appreciate your time.
Oh my God, you're the sweetest. I'll see you in January, right?
Well, and you've chosen the fucking best time of the year as well. Come on, summer girl, getting out of that.
Summer, summer and more like staple. It's gonna be so fun. It's gonna be dreamy.
Gonna be dreamy. You're the best. Thank you so much, Maren. I really appreciate your time.
After being a songwriter, especially in Nashville for this long, and when I moved to Nashville 12 years ago from Texas, I wanted to just be a songwriter. I didn't want to be an artist. I wanted to write songs for other artists. So I had to learn pretty quickly in Nashville, on Music Row, the way that people write songs in this town is, you collaborate with strangers every day.